All right, it's time for us to do our Kegel exercises. Why do we do them? Who cares? Well, the reason is that our pelvic floors are very important for our health. Our pelvic floors hold up the organs of the pelvis, including in women, the uterus, the vagina, the bladder, and the rectum. And so the stronger you can make your pelvic floor muscles, the better you can support them.
I like it. So then we have this patented GynoCast, customized Kegel exercise. World-renowned, custom.
And acclaimed, prize-winning.
We sound super fancy when we talk about it like that.
That's right.
But you've come up with this great routine that we can use to help strengthen our pelvic floor.
So easy.
Right. So you ready to start it off?
I'm ready.
Okay. 3
times a day.
6
days a week.
9
seconds per Kegel exercise.
And 12.
Kegel exercise in a row for a rep. And so you're just doing it 3 times a day. Do 12. Hold it for 9 seconds. Okay, you can do it 6 days a week and take a day off. You'll have a pelvic floor like a chain link fence, Twila Dang.
I like
You'll
it.
be able to pull a trailer. You will be the envy of your neighborhood. You will walk taller.
I'm going to go do them right now. I'd like to walk taller today. So make sure that you're doing them, and feel free to go get that infographic off of the GynoCast Facebook page and share it with your friends as well. Stay tuned.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the GynoCast. My name is Dr. Eric Heegaard. I'm here with Twila Dang, my wing woman,
Okay.
my co-host, my boss, my buddy.
Hey.
And today we are talking about, well, we don't really know. We're talking about things that you may be afraid to ask your OBGYN and
Right.
whether they're worthy of being afraid of asking.
Indeed. So you found this lovely list.
I
It's an
I
article.
love this stuff.
Yeah, indeed. It's an article that has 11 questions you're too embarrassed to ask your OBGYN. And since we happen to have one in the room, we can ask you.
Board certified.
Indeed.
Twila Dang, board certified.
So I say we just hop right in. The first question is a question I think we have all had and have never actually asked, and probably do everything we can to get around it. Can I see my OBGYN while I'm on my period?
Yes.
Really? I'm serious. Like,
Yeah,
really?
Yeah. Well, listen,
I'd be mortified.
Yeah, we talk about this all the time. So, it is embarrassing and uncomfortable for the patient. It doesn't matter to us.
Okay.
We are dealing with blood all day long. I'm not in our field, the only thing it might be superseded by is maybe people who work in colorectal surgery, we are dealing with blood and mucus and urine and feces all day long.
Right. So it's nothing.
And then
It's
what
nothing
we
to you.
do? We go and have a sandwich for lunch.
Right.
It doesn't even bother us.
Right.
It's just no big deal. So it may be embarrassing for you. It's not for us. And so most of the time, if you're having your period, it's not a big deal.
Okay.
So we can do a pap smear if you are having your period. We can do a pelvic exam when you're having your period. Now, if it is really super heavy, that wouldn't be ideal. But if it's not, if you're on kind of the lighter days, and it wouldn't be a problem.
Okay. Well, that's
And
good
so
to know.
now the things that, if we are trying to identify a certain problem, so for example, there are times if you have an abnormal pap smear, for example, and we are doing an evaluation called a colposcopy, where we're actually going to put your cervix under a microscope per se. So we're looking at the cervix very carefully to look for any evidence of a precancer, and there's certain little patterns and things we look for. That would not be good. We don't want to do that.
Okay.
So if we're following up on certain things in particular, it may not be ideal if a woman's having her period, but most of the time it's no big deal.
Oh, well, good to know.
Yeah.
Thanks. So number 2 on this list is, does it matter if I do or don't shave /groom /wax before my visit?
No. It does not matter.
Yes, it does. No, I'm just kidding. It doesn't. It really doesn't.
It really, and seriously, again, we don't expect, and I know it's easier for us from our side of things, but we don't really need you to do anything special. We're not going to give not going to give you a little star. We're not going to give you a star based on the creativity of your sculpting, your female scaping, or whatever you want to do.
Oh, okay. So no like shapes or anything.
Yeah, well, I had
that used to be a thing.
I know,
remember?
Yeah, I actually had a patient one time. He's still a patient. He was really funny, and she came in and she had sparkles all over her pubic hair. And she just kind of, and it was, I have to admit, it was funny. It was, and there aren't that many people who can pull that off, but she pulled that off, and it was really funny. But, we don't need that.
Okay, you do realize that now that's like you
It's
said
a
that
trend.
now it's like challenge accepted. Like I have my annual exam coming up in June,
Yeah,
and
just
I swear,
you get those little cookie
and with
sparkles.
and with the total straight face. I just want to wait and see if the doctor actually like says anything.
Yeah.
Like acknowledges it in any way whatsoever. That is now.
Oh, they'll say something like, it's most of the time, and we want, it's helpful for everybody to be hygienic, but
Right.
that doesn't mean, you don't need to be compulsive. Like, and people get really compulsive at times. You could just tell.
Well,
And-
but that's because there are all these sort of societal things that we have around being uncomfortable about odor
Yeah,
and things like
exactly.
that. And we've actually done a previous podcast where we talk specifically about feminine hygiene.
Yeah.
It's really great. We'll link it up in the show notes for this show
Yeah.
as well. But that is absolutely a common theme, particularly going to the doctor. I mean, you're going and you're essentially going to be spread eagle at some point with the doctor's face very close to that. And you're already paranoid about it. And the idea of being paranoid in that setting where now you are nervous and possibly sweating and panic would set in.
Yeah, it again, I totally understand. Like when I go to see my doctor, Dr. Harold Katz, MD, internal medicine endocrinologist, just saying that.
Nice.
I take a shower. I wash myself up.
Well, yeah.
It's not like,
You do
but I
all
don't do
X.
anything. I don't pull out my manscaping razor and try to carve an interesting thing into my pubic hair. I haven't, and because
You don't groom.
What do you mean I don't groom?
You don't groom.
No,
Like,
I take
no?
a freaking
Seriously?
shower.
That's it. Seriously.
Seriously, I do not.
Okay. Must be nice.
Well, I'm just saying I am a man of my time. I didn't.
Mind you, I'm giving you so much crap, and I fully admitted years ago that I rock a '70s vibe and can care less.
You could probably braid my back hair. I don't shave it. I don't worry about it.
I just think
I'm a bear.
that's
You know
super
what they
interesting.
hear? Isn't that one of the terms they use for how different men look like? There's
in gay culture.
in gay culture. Yeah,
Yeah.
they'll talk about the bears.
Yeah.
I'm kind of a bear.
Okay, I just want you to know for a fact that you just said on tape, in gay culture, like I'm a bear.
Yeah,
You
I'm
just-
not. Well,
That's
okay.
a full isolated clip somebody's going to pull
Okay.
for you and go, oh. So when you finally start getting the inappropriate DMs like I get all the time,
Okay.
welcome
Well,
to
I'm
the
just saying.
welcome to the club, sir.
I will just say I'm not gay. I have people who are very dear to me who are gay, and I wouldn't care if anybody I love about is
I'm
gay.
just-
I'm just not.
You're just overdue to get the
and
inappropriate
just
pictures, like I
think,
get.
I heard somebody. I remember reading a book where one of the main characters disclosed to his adoring aunt that he was bisexual, and her response was, "Oh, how delightful! Doesn't that increase the opportunities for love twofold?"
There's a comedian who used to say that's just greedy. choose one. You can't take everything out of the pool. Just choose one.
Yeah,
So that-
exactly. Yeah. So how do we? Oh my Lord, Twila.
Well, you started.
Okay, so anyway, I don't like going to the doctor either, but I take a shower. I want to make sure I don't.
I mean, you groom, you just don't go crazy.
Yeah, I don't want to go in there and have the doctor kind of say, "Wow, that guy's gamey."
Listen,
Whoa,
nobody wants that.
Did you just spend the weekend deer hunting?
Yeah,
and
nobody
just come
nobody
in,
wants to be in that position in that particular
Yeah.
doctor's office and have that be the thing that is top of mind.
That's
No,
right.
of
So
course not.
we are, the human body smells.
Right.
And part of the smells are actually helpful clinically. And so we don't want you to just, go crazy and, people will douche, and which we always say don't, right? Don't.
No, you say that. We just say don't do it.
Yeah, just in reality, as we've talked about before,
Yeah.
the odor in the genital area is mostly from the outside.
Right.
It's the area, the skin around the anus, between the anus and the vagina. The vulvar area. The vagina itself, there is an odor to that, but that is there's a healthy odor to it due to the pH and the acidity and the discharge.
Right.
And so you want to clean. If you want to clean, you don't have to. You might be one of those people who likes to be gamey. I don't know, but clean the outside.
Right. That's all you need to do.
All right.
The self-cleaning oven, as you like to point out.
Yeah.
Okay. So
and I've had so many people tell me that is baloney.
That it's self-cleaning oven?
Yeah, I've had patients of mine say that is baloney.
But that's because we've all been socialized to think that we
right.
have to like stick a bunch of products in there and smell like lavender and lilac and citrus all the time. So those seem to be the most popular smells. Yeah. They don't do it for me, and I'm allergic to fragrance, so I'm not sticking anything in there.
Yeah. So you can use gentle soaps, so you can clean the outside of your perineum, the labia, the anal area, and just don't delve deep. Right. Don't dive deep in there. You're not spelunking, right?
This is going to be like quite the podcast for isolated clips, isn't it? Okay,
You're not. You can't.
I'm just saying.
You can't start clipping things out, Twila.
I'm not clipping things out. I'm saying somebody's going to download this and like isolate the clips of you saying things and just like pull them out. I used to do that. Like I used to isolate clips like on memo files and then make them my voicemail messages. Yeah. Like so I could make like my ringtone like my husband saying something really stupid. Or my right? Yeah, like we. Okay.
It's because you're so good with that stuff. I don't know how to do.
I just learned how to do most of this stuff. So I was supposed to prank my son on April Fool's, but he wanted to spend the night away from home. We were going to take his phone and we were going to change all the ringtones to all of the songs that he hates on my playlist. So it was going to be like a bunch of K-pop songs every time his phone rang or he got a text message from his friends, which is like every 10 seconds. So now we're saving it. We're gonna do it. I think we're gonna do it for his birthday to get him instead because he'll never listen to this. But I'm determined. Okay. I love crap like that. So I'm sorry. Anyway, so number 3.
So don't spelunk yourself.
Yeah, don't.
Or spelunk.
It's spelunk. You had it right.
Spelunk.
Yeah, it is.
No, not splunk.
No.
Don't splunk your trunk.
Okay, stop that. Okay, so we're discussing this list. It's 11 questions that you're too embarrassed to ask your OBGYN. Number 3 on this list is, what are those bumps down there, and should I be worried?
They're not bumps, they're bimps.
Okay, we're not doing this.
There are, that's a great question because there are certain bumps that are normal and certain that aren't. And so you just got to ask. And sometimes, again, if people don't direct our attention to something that's bothering them, we may not notice. We're always looking, of course, and if something is really obvious, but sometimes it's not so obvious.
Right.
And so if there's something that's bothering you, especially if it's painful, if it itches, or if it's new, we need to know about it. So, because some bumps are normal and some bumps aren't. And, this is interesting. I was talking, this is great. I'm just going to bring this up. I was having dinner, actually drinks with an old friend, a family friend who'd come into town 2 days ago.
Okay.
Right? And so she was at a conference here in Minneapolis. And she said, well, I'm over here having drinks with some friends at Britt's Pub. So if you're from the Twin Cities, you know about Britt's Pub. Yep. They have great Scotch eggs. It's a fun place.
It's a British pub.
It's a British pub. So I walk in there, and she'd obviously talked to her colleagues, 3 of whom were women and 1 man. And I sit down next to this woman. She goes, and she was from Ireland. She goes, I'm not going to do my great accent.
Yeah, don't do your accent.
How do you, because I can never do it between English, Scottish, where she goes, I just have to tell you something. I'm just wondering, I have this thing which I call the vaginal tongue. Is that normal? And this was 5 seconds from sitting down and meeting a woman I've never met before. And she's like,
wow,
I've got this vaginal tongue. Is that something I should worry about?
I'd be like, tell me more.
That's and so what do? I sit back and she said, well, I've had a couple of babies and now I have this little tissue area that comes out. It's just like a little tongue there.
Huh.
And I said, well, that's probably part of the. And she said, do you know what that is? That's something to worry about. And I said, well, it sounds like it's a little bit of residual hymenal tissue. That is just, was stretched out during delivery and is extending out. We see it all the time.
Okay. So it's normal.
It's normal.
Oh.
So, and I said, but if it bothers you, it just can be excised. You can just, incise. I said, I'm not going to do it now here at Britt's Pub. We can't do that now. But, it's
You're
just,
like, I just met you.
Yeah. Let's
let's
talk a little more. Yeah. So, but I'm just saying that people's bodies change over time. And also, it's an area of our bodies, our perineums, men and women, that we don't tend to spend a lot of time really looking at, unless you are really flexible or have a good mirror and have time. And so this may be another opportunity where we talk about getting to know your own body.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't hurt for all of us to be, you should know your own body. These moles are here. I've got a little, if you're doing breast exams, it's a little firmer here. And, so you can see if things change, because that's one of the most important things. And the vulvar area, again, it wouldn't hurt for people to kind of get an idea of what feels normal and what looks normal. And because, sometimes it can be a sign of something like a sexually transmitted infection. Most of the time, it's just an anatomical variant, something due to just the trauma of life, especially having babies. And oftentimes they're just, there's lots of glands and there's hair follicles, and you can get bumps and lumps from that. But you want to make sure you're not missing something like herpes or, there's a lot of other sexually transmitted infections that can cause lumps and bumps, and occasionally it might be something precancerous.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and you would want, and better to ask, so you actually have an opportunity to get an answer.
Yes, that's right. And again, I know it's really hard for people to realize this, but there is hardly anything that embarrasses us.
Right.
And we do this all day long. And so I know it's uncomfortable for you as the patient, but this is what we're here for.
Well, here I have a new perspective on this, and not everybody will clue into this example, but it was just sort of an epiphany I had recently about this. The things that I tend to be like, if I'm in a conversation with somebody like a doctor or something, and I have a discomfort level, I try to remember that all of the time now in my life, I am advocating for my children to come and talk to me, and that the things that my children want to ask me about are things that are embarrassing to them, but are absolutely second nature to me. I've lived it. I've been through it. I'm married to somebody that's been through it, or it's a life experience that we've had. And the first time I realized that, for me, that was like a full circle life moment. Like, now I know I can be less intimidated, because now I know what it's like to stand in the shoes of somebody that has the information and just wants to make you comfortable to bring me the information.
Yeah.
Now I understand, I like on a much more sort of emotional intelligence level, that when I'm in the doctor's office, that you have information that I need, that you're not going to judge it. That's why you're here. That's why I'm here to see you.
That's right.
That you just want to get an answer to the question. If I ask you the question, the same as with my kids. If they have a question, I want them to ask it so we can get an answer. They don't ask me something with my intent being, to shame them or make them embarrassed about it or make them feel silly about it. It's, I'm so glad that you were brave enough to ask me. Right. Let's help get an answer. Yeah. So if you think of it that way, particularly out there, if you have children, or if you've had the experience of being someone who's cared for somebody else in that, in that way, and are sort of a guardian for somebody, sort of take that with a bit of a grain of salt, and maybe it make it a little easier to ask the question.
That's right. And if you feel like, and this is something you say all the time, Twila, is that, if you don't feel like you're being treated respectfully and your issues are being addressed, find somebody else.
Yep, you can fire your doctor.
You can do that.
It feels really good.
Yeah, it really.
I'm not kidding. It feels really good. I'm not saying I walk around doing it all the time. I've only really ever had to fire one doctor, like outright, had to tell somebody, you will not take care of me anymore. And honestly, it felt good, because I felt like I was treated really, really terribly. And I actually had another experience with a different doctor where I really did go to break up with the doctor. I was like, and we're breaking up. And
that's what you said?
Yeah, I
said, use those words.
Yeah, I said I think I need to find a new doctor.
I think I need some space. It's not you. It's really me.
No, I told her, no, this is you, and I'm not satisfied with the care I'm getting. And we actually had an actual sit down conversation where she was like, "I'm sorry you feel that way. What is going on?" And I was very upfront. I was able to tell her, I don't feel like you advocate for me, and I don't feel like when I ask questions, you answer them. And to be honest, you've blown off a bunch of my appointments, seemingly at the last minute. And mind you, I didn't know what was going on in her life. All I knew is what it looked like from my side and what it felt like from my perspective. And she was really upfront about, she actually apologized, and she explained that she kind of had some things going on that made it difficult. And that she would never want to, come across as not being open or caring about my health, because my health is important. She's like, my patient's health is important to me. And we actually resolved it, and I actually stayed with her for another year or two. And then ultimately I wound up having, like, we changed health insurance and it got weird.
Yeah.
But that was for me a valuable experience as well, learning actually how to sit in a room with somebody and advocate in a way that a resolution could be had that was mutually beneficial. You know, like, I didn't have a problem with her care when she was being consistent. I had a problem with her inconsistency. And ultimately, us having that conversation made her more consistent. That made her a better doctor for me and possibly a better doctor for other people.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So
we're just people too.
Yes,
And
yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
And we value, even though we may not like, nobody likes criticism, but it doesn't hurt, and it helps us do things better.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, one of the whole idea of self-advocacy again, and feeling uncomfortable with a physician you've chosen. I think I've told the story before about one of the greatest tragedies in my medical practice was a patient of mine who was very heavy said, "Can you see my sister?
Mm-hmm.
Something's going." Have I told you this before?
You've told me, but you should share that story.
Because she said my sister has not seen a gynecologist for years because she's embarrassed about how heavy she is, and she was having vaginal bleeding, and she was young, about 28 years old, I think. And I said, "Of course I'll see her." And she came in. I did an exam, and I could tell right there it was cancer. Cervical cancer. And she'd had an abnormal pap smear years and years and years ago. But she was too embarrassed to see a doctor to get it evaluated. And so and she, I ended up getting her evaluated, getting her over for cancer treatment, and she subsequently died. And she was probably 31, 32 years old.
And that's terrible.
And the tragedy. Well, she was just lovely. She was just a wonderful human being, as was her sister. But the very fact that she didn't feel comfortable with the medical system as it is, it's tragedy. That we make people so uncomfortable about their bodies that they don't feel comfortable coming in and being taken care of and being evaluated. And so we as practitioners need to always be working on how can we open ourselves to be more welcoming to certain groups of people that we may not be addressing well. And patients need to be able to advocate to say, I don't like this doctor, and I'm not comfortable with him or her, and I'm going to find somebody else.
Yeah, and you can do that.
You can find somebody else.
You're allowed to do that. I highly recommend it. Okay, so number 4 on this list of the 11 questions you're too embarrassed to ask your OBGYN, does my vagina smell normal?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And this is, again, this is a wonderful question because one of the things that I think we as a population, just people, we don't talk about odor much.
No, we don't.
Because
we just talk about eliminating it.
Right, eliminating odor. And we all know, as physicians, of course, that the body smells. It has normal smells. And we all know that obviously under our arms, there's odor, our mouths, our breath, and also our perineal area. There's odors to it. And this is another opportunity to try to, I think the importance is to know what's normal for you. And so, if something is different, you got to let us know. Now, odor in the vaginal area is a little bit troublesome and subjective, obviously, but there is an odor to that part of the body, but it should not be strong, and it should not be. I've heard it described, as a kind of a briny, a little bit of an acidic smell to it.
Right.
And when it's healthy, the reason is because it is acidic. The vagina is an acidic environment. The pH of the vagina is between 3.8 and 4.2. 3.8, and throw that out at the next dinner party.
I am tomorrow.
That is
I have dinner party tomorrow. I'm totally doing that.
That's some serious. You are laying down kaboom.
I know.
But it's fantastic. The vagina, like other parts of is this miraculously delicate part of our bodies that is a very narrowly calibrated system, microsystem of good bacteria and bad bacteria. And the good bacteria are predominantly lactobacillus. And lactobacillus produce what, Twila? Think lactic acid.
Yep.
And so it it makes the vagina acidic. Well, why do we want the vagina to be acidic? Because an acidic environment suppresses bad bacteria, especially colonic bacteria like E. coli, Klebsiella, and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, interestingly enough, when you go and get your kombucha and many of the fermented products that we have, like many sorts of cheeses that are raw milk cheeses, this is probably going to make you nauseated, but what makes kimchi survive and be is because there's a lactobacillus environment that occurs in the cabbage that creates an acidic environment. Now, it's not exactly the same lactobacillus that is found in the vagina, but it's lactobacillus. Lactobacillus is everywhere. It's fantastic. It's what makes a lot of times raw milk cheeses safe, because the lactobacillus that the milk is in there creates an acidic environment that suppresses E. coli from our little cute cows. Lactobacillus, man, it's
See, that went somewhere I didn't expect it to go.
Lactobacillus. Lactobacillus is everywhere. It's
Indeed.
fantastic, and so that may be something people didn't want to hear about. But so lactobacillus
It's a fun
in the vagina,
fact. It's just a
and
fun
it
fact.
creates an acidic environment, and it creates an odor of slight acidity.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as long as the odor is not too strong, and there's no other symptoms like itching or burning, and it really shouldn't. It's normal.
Okay.
And any stronger odors are generally from the outside, the perineal area, the external genitalia, the area around the anus, the perineum, and the labia. And so if you clean that area off with a gentle soap and are careful about that, and you still have a really strong odor, then you should get it evaluated, because sometimes that means there's an imbalance in the vaginal bacterial flora.
Okay.
I told this story one time, probably where I had one of my old partners who was really funny. I heard her. We had our desk right next to her, and I heard her sort of laughing to herself. So I pushed my chair back, and I'm like, "Well, what are you laughing about?" She said, "God, I was sitting here. I got this worst odor." And I thought, oh, my God, I've got one vicious case of bacterial vaginosis. And she said, but then I just looked in my trash can, and it was the tuna sandwich I had from yesterday.
Wow.
These are the things you talk about in an in an OBGYN office. There's nothing that is sacrosanct. People,
Yeah, you always let off fly.
It's just, it's fantastic.
It's good to know.
Support for the GynoCast is provided by OBGYN West. OBGYN West provides the highest quality care from compassionate providers, including women's health issues from general sexual health to pregnancy care, childbirth, menopause, and beyond. Whether it's your teen's first annual exam, a new baby's on the way, or you're facing the special challenges of middle age, OBGYN West provides a wide array of services. Their doctors and PAs are trained in virtually every type of OBGYN service and procedure. OBGYN West provides exceptional care for women.
All right, number 5 on this list. A little bit more of a serious question. Can I talk to my OBGYN about abortion?
Of course. Yes, absolutely. And this is one of these things that you have to be in a perfect world. A doctor should be able to step back from his or her personal feelings about something and give the data.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, but I've heard stories that that's not always the case.
As have I.
And so I don't know exactly how to answer the question, except that a good doctor who has practiced for a while and understands the complexity of life will be able to give her information without necessarily imparting his or her value system there. And so, like, and when I have patients come in and talk to me, for example, if they have an early pregnancy and they're not sure what to do, I will go through the options with them. Mm-hmm. And what I always say is that our clinic, I said, we don't do abortions at our clinic at OBGYN West. We don't do them. Mm-hmm. But we have resources. We can tell you where to go. and we will support you and we will take care of you whatever decision you make.
Right.
And so you go through the process of informing the patient. Again, if you go to an OBGYN and you feel like they can't talk about it in a way that is objective and clinical and supportive, you got to find somebody else.
Yeah. If you're in a doctor's office, a health professional's office, for any reason to ask that question, to ask specifically about abortion or abortion services, and you're treated with anything less than absolute compassion and respect and given real specific information, you should turn around and walk out. There's absolutely no reason that a medical professional shouldn't take the utmost care with your physical and emotional well-being in a moment like that. You're absolutely vulnerable in that moment, and for anybody to prey on that is absolutely wrong, and they shouldn't do it under any circumstances. They can give you a full range of information. They can give you a full range of options, but if they give you any sort of value judgment about you or your life or the life that you live or your lifestyle choices, that is not okay.
Yeah,
and I don't want anybody for even a second to put up with that kind of treatment. You get up, you walk out, and you go find someone that will take care of you.
Yep.
And an extension of that, you don't have to go necessarily to a service or to a clinic like a Planned Parenthood to get those types of services, thinking that no doctor will deal with you. You can actually even call Planned Parenthood and be given a list of doctors who will give you a full range of options that will be supportive in a way that some doctors are not.
I was actually going to suggest that might be a good way to start if you don't have a doctor that you are connected to and kind of have a sense of what his philosophy.
It's absolutely a safe
resources.
It's absolutely safe space and safe place to start.
Yep.
And I've known women who have made decisions on both ends of that spectrum with an unwanted pregnancy, and had both received the same level of absolute 100% support and advocacy. Going down two completely different paths, starting at a place like Planned Parenthood. That is ultimately what that service is supposed to provide. It's supposed to provide health and support for women. So you absolutely deserve that. Nobody gets to make a value judgment on your life. You came in asking for help and support and services. That's what you should receive.
That's right. And as a doctor, as a practitioner, you are morally obligated to give them information.
Absolutely. What's the oath that first do no harm?
Yeah, the Hippocratic Oath. That's one of them. Yeah.
See?
Yep.
I know things.
You got it.
All right. Number 6 on this list of the 11 questions you're too embarrassed to ask your OBGYN. Should we discuss anal sex?
Yes.
Okay, this whole isolating clip thing, boy, I'm getting it just as bad as you at this point. These questions are getting more complicated, and I'm reading them. I'm like, okay.
Well, you should. I think. I don't know whether you need to bring it up all the time, but I think if there's reasons to discuss this with your doctor. Number one, if you have pain, if you have bleeding, and also if you are.
Wait, I think this is okay. Maybe I'm just reading this. Maybe I'm interpreting this wrong. I don't think we ask about it after. I think is it okay to ask you about it before we engage in the behavior?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Because I think that is particularly for cisgendered women, that is a big cisgendered heterosexual women, that is a very big holy grail, I don't know if we're ever going to go there kind of a thing. And if you even slightly entertain it, you don't entertain it with a health professional. You just kind of haphazardly wind up, doing something stupid without proper preparation.
Right.
So I think that's the kind of question where it's I'm thinking about this. Yeah. What can you tell me?
Well, that would be, that's the ideal circumstance.
Yeah, that's true.
It really is,
true.
Because we feel that way about a lot of different topics. And if a teenager, before they have sex, and it would be ideal if they would come and talk to us before they actually had sex the first time.
Yeah.
Does that happen?
Yeah,
no, ever.
No.
But I have had rare circumstances where people have talked to me about that, and that's wonderful. To be able to discuss it beforehand, but the same thing would be with anal sex. And I'm trying to think I think I actually did have someone actually ask me that one time. But and maybe we should have, as practitioners, be actually asking it are you engaging in anal sex? But we don't generally. So, but yeah, ideally it would be great if patients would feel comfortable doing it, and they really should, because again, there is nothing we have not heard.
Right.
And it's one of the, I got to tell you that one of the wonderful things about clinical medicine and OBGYN in particular is that we hear about the most intimate parts of people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, we've heard it all. I think we've heard it all. And I've extracted, I'll give you I've extracted a rubber dildo from a man's rectum with forceps.
And now the show gets marked explicit.
Guess what?
And now the show gets marked explicit.
I'm just telling you that I don't even deal with men. I deal with women, but
yeah.
I actually got called in by a colleague to see if I had any suggestions on getting this. And the thing was the size of a lava lamp. A lava lamp. It was huge.
We don't need to know all this.
I'm just saying that.
I know, but
we see it all, right?
It's my own fault. I should have skipped that question. Should have just skipped it. No, seriously. I agree with you. You should ask.
People put a lot of things in their rectum.
Yeah, you know what? My husband was an intern, an emergency room intern.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, that is the truth.
Yeah.
They used to have a daily contest of like, what's the most unusual thing somebody pulled out of a rectum.
Yeah.
It was like, and when I say it was a daily contest, we lived in a major metropolitan city.
Yeah.
There was a winner every day because somebody came in every day.
Rectum?
Rectum?
Nearly killed him.
Quiet.
Anyway, so the point is, talk to your doctor beforehand, because if you feel comfortable, which you should, and the reason is that it can, under certain circumstances, put you at risk for certain things.
Yeah,
and there's more potential trauma to the tissue of the rectum and the anus than penis anal sex or penis vaginal sex.
Right,
and the reason for that is that there can be less lubrication. The tissue is not used to it, and the anal sphincter is tight, and so you want to make sure you're talking about using condoms. Mm-hmm. Especially unless you're in a monogamous relationship, but you want to be really careful about that. Using a lot of lubrication,
right.
And you need a lot of lubrication, and you need to go slow.
Right.
Go slow.
I'm gonna throw out an advocate.
Go
slow. I'm gonna throw out some advocate information. If this is something you're seriously considering and you're not going to be brave enough to go ask your doctor anytime soon, there's a great website called Smitten Kitten.
Yeah.
It is a sex positive, education forward sex store store for sex health related products. They have a website. I believe it's smittenkitten.com. It might be smittenkitten.org. Not totally sure. I'll find it and put it in the notes. But they actually have instructional information on there, and they have videos. The videos aren't graphic, but the videos talk you through these are products. If you're thinking about doing this particular thing, here are the things you'd need. Here's what you have to consider. So they actually have videos. They have articles. They have actual instructional pieces on their website that will help you if you're, before you make maybe a decision that may lead to, injury, or a decision that you haven't thought out well enough. They actually are such advocates that they want to make sure that if you're thinking about it, here's basically the full complement of what you need before you start.
That's right.
And I think that's a great resource to have, and I think that's an amazing thing that they do as a part of their everyday business, is to provide that information so that you're not only a consumer but an educated consumer.
That's right.
So.
And the other thing I want to bring up, which is I think why this is actually such an important question, is that we know that cervical cancer and vaginal cancer, many different types, are related to human papillomavirus. That is what causes basically cervical cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can also get anal cancer and rectal cancer. And it is believed, I think there's more and more evidence, that this can be related to HPV as well. So if you are in a relationship, either having multiple partners where you may be at a higher risk for certain issues, for being exposed to sexually transmitted infections, you want to be particularly careful with having your partner use a condom. And if you let us know that these situations may arise, sometimes we are even doing pap smears on the anus.
Really?
Yeah, I knew that would get your attention. Anal pap smears. And for the very reason of trying to make sure we're catching precancer in the anal area. And so this is a good thing for people to know and to talk to their doctors about, because nobody wants anal cancer. I will tell you that.
No, not even a little bit.
Can we all agree with that? Everybody in the
I
studio
agree with that
audience?
wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
I wish I had a little button. The audience would go, hooray.
Yeah, exactly.
So the next question on this list of the 11 questions you're too embarrassed to ask your OBGYN is, can I have sex during pregnancy? I can answer that question for you. Yep.
Yes, you can, and it's for at different parts of pregnancy, it can be more comfortable than others, but many women, feel very comfortable having sex during pregnancy, and some people find it more erotic that they're pregnant and enjoy pregnancy or sex even more. And so you got to be careful. There's certain high risk pregnancies where we recommend you do not. And so you need to talk to your doctor about that. But under normal circumstances, yeah, absolutely. And if you want to read something interesting, you remember Dr. Ruth, 900-year-old Dr. Ruth?
Yeah, Dr. Ruth Westheimer.
Yeah, and I think that I can't remember where she came up with this with some other doctor. It was the Dr. Ruth and Dr. whatever sex position for late pregnancy. It's
nice.
It's
Cosmo has that too. If you go to Cosmo's website and all you have to do is put in sex position and then
pregnancy.
You can put any word behind there, and they'll somehow they'll have. You could put sex position 4th of July, and they'll have a list of 10. It was just about anything you can think of. They have a full complement range of here's positions for that. So they totally have that.
Who would have thought? So yes, you can, and as long as it's not painful. Sometimes, for many women, there can be sometimes a little spotting after sex because the cervix can be very fragile during pregnancy, and so you might have a little spotting, and that's not really necessarily anything to worry about. The other thing is if you have an orgasm, you may have uterine contractions. You will have uterine contractions, and so don't panic about that, and it will go away shortly.
Shortly, indeed.
Yeah.
Okay, so number 8 on this list is my vaginal discharge normal?
That's great. Again, it goes right back to the odor thing. Is that there is the vagina produces discharge. The cervix produces discharge. The vagina produces discharge, and the idea of that is to maintain a certain amount of lubrication, but also it's a continuous sort of cleansing of the vagina. Mm-hmm. And so there's that I think I remember saying that the normal amount of discharge is approximately 5 cc's or 1 tablespoon. Per day.
Right.
Now, who came up with that? I don't really know. But because some people have much more discharge than others, certain medications can make you have more discharge. The bottom line is, does it itch? Does it burn? Is there an unusual odor to it? And those are the things that matter. Because if it's not itching, if it's not burning, if there's not an unusual odor, you can pretty much chalk it up to being normal, and you don't need to do anything about it.
I like that.
Yeah.
Makes me happy.
Yeah.
All right, number 9 on our list of the 11 questions you're too embarrassed to ask your OBGYN is, why does sex hurt for me? I feel like that's a very specific question that nobody asks.
Yeah. Well, that, again, is a very important question that, again, we've talked about many times, which is the very fact that somebody's asking that implies that they realize that sex is not supposed to hurt. And it's not supposed to hurt. Now, I have one little caveat to that, which is most women will have pain occasionally.
Right.
It's just it's like the same thing. People talk to me. Well, I have pain with a bowel movement. Well, do you have? Is it every time? No, I had a little sharp pain when I had a bowel movement 3 months ago. Well, but sometimes depending on where a woman is in her cycle, depending on if she may have a cyst on her ovary, depending on the relaxation of her pelvic floor, what position they're trying, the size of her partner, etc. Sometimes most women will occasionally feel some discomfort.
Right.
But but that's different than something that is predictable. Like you will know that, it always hurts when my partner is trying to insert. We're talking about heterosexual sex in this situation, but
True.
Insert the penis right on the outside. Always hurts there, burns, etc. Or I have pain every time at deep penetration, and with this particular position, this always hurts, so we avoid this. Those are the things we need to know about because, in general, sex should not be painful. And so if it is painful, we have to figure out why. And there's a number of different reasons why it can be there, part of which is figuring out, is this long-standing? Has this been something? Have you ever been able to have pain or sex without pain?
Right.
That's a very different thing than if I was fine for 5 years and in the last 6 months something's changed. That's a whole different kind of decision tree and evaluation.
Mm-hmm.
But the things that can cause painful sex are there are certain skin disorders of the vulvar area, that things like vulvar vestibulitis, which is an inflammation of the vulvar opening, which can be very incredibly uncomfortable. Some women who are menopausal may have pain with sex because there's vaginal dryness, and the menopausal state creates a thinning of the vaginal tissue that can make it more likely to be torn and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Conditions like endometriosis, which we talk about extensively on this show, is one of the more common reasons why women may have predictable pain with deep penetration, especially in certain positions. It can be very oftentimes positional. Ovarian cysts, any inflammation in the pelvis. And these are things that there's a number of different things that can cause pain with intercourse. But again, the most important thing to figure out is this a rare occasion that just happens every once in a while, and for most part you have sex without discomfort, or is this something new and persistent, getting worse, etc.? That's something that we really need to evaluate. And oftentimes we can find solutions that will allow a woman to get back to having normal sexual activity without discomfort.
Indeed. Well, I like that. I want more women to ask that question. I think too many of us think that pain is just something we have to live with.
Right.
So,
it's like painful periods that keep you from doing what you want to do. It's not normal. And we've talked about this with endometriosis, especially in teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
If you have to miss school, if you have to miss activities, that's not normal.
Yeah, that's not normal.
It's not Eve's curse. People talk. You hear people saying, "Well, that's just the way it is."
Baloney.
Well,
yeah,
it's a different level of discomfort.
Exactly. All right, number 10 on our list is, what is my vulva supposed to look like? I've never thought to ask this question.
Well, there's no good answer to that because everybody's body is different, and our hands all look different, our ears all look different, and our faces.
But you can't give us like an inference, like you can't say like, think of like a bag of chips. I don't know. I'm just saying.
I'll tell you one thing: most people's labias don't look like a bag of chips.
No, but I'm just saying, like, as a ballpark, like, yes, I assume that everybody has individualities and differences. No. Is there sort of a ballpark shape that you can give somebody so that they know if they're brave enough to look, that it's not all sideways? Like, if you say it should be circular and they look and it's like triangular or it's like a square.
Well, that I wish I could. The best thing to do, frankly, is you can Google that. That very question: what does a normal labia look like? And you'll find, things that are obviously probably pornography, but there are different things out there.
Yes,
but the thing is that there's two sets of labia.
Mm-hmm.
There's the labia minora and the labia majora, and the majora are on the outside; they're hair covered. Under normal circumstances, unless you shave, or laser or pluck or whatever, and they tend to be thicker and wider, and then you have the inner set of labia, which are hairless and are on both sides of the vaginal opening, and this is where there's a whole variety of what is normal. And there are people who have very small labia minora, and there are people who have very large labia minora that can be long, can extend down, and again, there's no necessary abnormality to that.
Right. So there isn't necessarily a normal shape. There's just what is necessarily normal for you.
Yeah.
And there's probably an average structure that you're looking.
Right. And also, and the thing is that there should be these anatomical areas present.
Mm-hmm.
You should have a labia majora and a labia minora, and you should have a vaginal opening that is large enough to put in a tampon and have intercourse if that's what you want to do. And so these things are basically in the same area. The distance between the anus and the rectum is variable, but all this tissue can have different coloring, can have different sizes. It's incredibly variable. And the most important thing is that there's no dysfunction related to it, meaning that if your vaginal opening is so small that you can't either get a tampon in, or you cannot have intercourse without pain, that's not normal.
Right.
So it's more functional. I've had people who I've done labial reduction surgeries on, sometimes just from pure cosmetics, but so I've had patients who say that their labia are so large that it gets caught in their underwear. It causes pain, and but most of the time the body's asymmetric, just like the rest of our bodies. So some people can have larger labia on one side or the other. Mm-hmm. If it's not a problem, it's not a problem.
If it's not a problem, it's not a problem.
Yeah, and you can actually ask your doctor. I just say, does everything look normal? And she or he will say, yes, this is normal. And if you're worried,
that's a
ask
great
them.
question to ask in general. Just to say, is everything normal? Because that's not what we think to ask. We think to panic and say something wrong.
That's right.
Right, as opposed to like, is everything looking okay?
Yeah, right. Oh. And you can take a mirror and take a look at yourself.
You should take a mirror and look at yourself, girls. You should know what you look like. You should know what you look like.
That's right. And so I have people ask me all the time, well, is this little bump here normal? Does this tissue look normal? And yeah, I'll say yes, or occasionally I'll say that you're right. That looks a little concerning. Let's
do something.
Yeah.
Let's take care of it. Okay, exactly. Yeah. That's why I like that we have this forum to be able to advocate for that. So number 11 of the 11 questions you're too embarrassed to ask your OBGYN is, why is my libido so damn low?
That is a darn good question for another show.
I know that feels like a super complicated.
Yeah,
even I know enough to go like that is its own topic.
And that is a whole visit.
It is
probably more than one visit, because you got to decide, again, like many other things. Number one, is it a problem? And usually if they're asking, it's a problem. But if different couples have different sexual frequency, and there are people who are very intimate emotionally, but they don't have sexual or physical intimacy, and they are both fine with that.
Right.
And the problem is that when you have, obviously, a disparity between what one partner wants and what the other one wants. And so you've got that. Libido, depending on how you want to define it, if you want to, what most people think of as being libido is that spontaneous sexual urge to go and have sex with your partner. And that, again, tends to vary over people's lives. It varies over the course of relationships. It depends on the underlying health of both partners. It depends on other extraneous factors, such as what else is going on in a person's life.
Yeah, that is absolutely a complex question.
Yeah, and we've talked. Again, definitely as people get into menopause or postmenopause, many women can, not all, but many women can notice that if you use that definition of libido, that libido changes. But many people who look at female libido especially are using a broader definition of how you define that. And frankly, what I'll tell my patients is, assuming that there's nothing else wrong physically, that I'll say, well, is sex painful for you? Number one.
Yeah.
Number two, as long as it's not, once you start having sex with your partner, do you enjoy it? Are you able to? Are you able to have an orgasm and that sort of thing? And if they say, yeah, and once we get going, I feel great. I enjoy it. I love being connected to my partner, etc. I have an orgasm. Great. Well, that's normal. And it's just that sometimes we have to redefine what is libido and also change our definition of the sexual response cycle, which has historically been male-based, which is linear.
Yes.
You start from here and you go to there.
Right.
And women, as we've talked about before, it tends to be more circular, and women can enter and exit out of that sexual response cycle at different times. And so I think for many women it can be helpful sometimes to realize that what they're experiencing may not be what they felt like when they were 22 years old and they just met their partner. It's different then than it is 20 years ago, but it's still normal.
Absolutely. Well,
how'd I do, Twila?
I think you did a great job.
I actually think I handled that pretty well, too.
You handled that beautifully.
That's a delicate...
That was, and for sure, I think if anything, it reminds us that we probably need to revisit and have an episode surrounding that. So we'll be doing that very, very soon.
Yep.
In the meantime, you guys, we have a website. Go to matriarchdm.com and check out the website. The GynoCast has a page. You can also email the show at hello@matriarch.com and let us know your thoughts. And if you have suggestions or ideas or questions you want to ask Dr. E, you can also find us on Facebook. Go to the GynoCast. Go in the search bar and just type in the GynoCast. You can ask to be a member. It is a closed group, but the reason it's closed is because we have very supportive and respectful conversations around difficult topics, and we want to make sure that we maintain a respectful environment around those at all times. And hey, while you're at it and you're on the internets, you know what you should do? You should totally subscribe to our podcast.
Do it.
You should subscribe it. You should rate it.
It's a world of wonders.
I know. You should review it. It'd be great. We would love to get your feedback. We enjoy doing this so much, and we love being able to be a support and an advocate for you guys. And we hope to continue to do it. So thank you so much for your support. We will talk to you soon.